we started off with an arbitrage model for sure. And then, we started building up a whole bunch of cash flow. So it was like, well, we need to park this somewhere and actually, put down some roots. So we took all of our cash and took all of our cash flow and took all of our business plans to the bank and said, we want to buy a property. And we actually house hack. So we built I guess it's technically a 4-bedroom house. But one of those bedrooms actually has its own front door, its own studio. So it's a self-contained apartment.
Nice.
And so we house hack. So the income that we earn from that property pays for the whole house, which is nice.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah. And you built that from scratch there in Tokyo?
We did. So we bought, being downtown Tokyo, there's no land,
Yeah.
right? So we bought something that had an older place on it. Houses go up and go down a lot here. Usually the shelf life of a house is about 30 years, and they're a depreciable asset. So get your head around that one.
Yeah.
They depreciate like a car. The land holds its value though, so you want the land. And so we bought land in Yoyogi, which is between Shinjuku and Shibuya, so basically right in the center of everything. And we knocked down the old house and popped up the new one. And because we were building a new dwelling, then we were able to get finance, because Japan loves construction. Japan loves to lend money for people who want to build things. So we met that threshold of wanting to build, and so we built a hotel within the walls of our house.
Wow.
So that's the one we own. We also work with a number of owners who own property, and they're nomadic. They might be a family that has one spouse who's Japanese, one spouse who's foreign, and they have, a life here and they have a life abroad as well. So we have a couple of clients who have that sort of lifestyle. They come and use their house for 6 months of the year, which is great for a 180-day license. And then we do the property management side of it for the other 6 months. So we have a number of people that we co-host with, profit share. It's mainly what we're looking for, properties that meet our brand, that really suit the needs of our ideal guest. So I've turned down properties all the time that sort of don't fit what I can sell.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And what's your criteria in terms of numbers? Like, is there a net amount that you're looking, a net spread on a monthly basis to take on a new property, or how do you decide, this one is worth it for the time we're going to put into it?
Well, that's a great question. So for an arbitrage, I'll look at the numbers, and I'll also download all my Price Lab market dashboard. I love them. They make my life so easy. And I'll look at, obviously, occupancy, all the market data. Data is golden, which I didn't know in the old days. In the old days, it was just on instinct. But now I'm really dialed into the data. So if I can make my fixed costs, so that's rent and salaries, etc., in the first 7 days of a potential ADR. So if the nightly rate over 7 days will cover all my fixed costs, then I'm interested. If all of the fixed costs plus the variable costs are covered within 14 to 15 days, then I'm really interested. And then the rest of the month is then, I would consider that's the profit side of it. So nice. That's usually my rule of thumb.
Yeah. And what are your occupancies typically? The occupancy percentage?
95%.
Wow. That is awesome.
Can I say that? Yeah, it's right now it is booming here right now. Yeah. Absolutely booming.
That's incredible. So yeah.
So we're typically at 95%. I know it's unheard of. Yeah.
That's great, though. I mean, so so thinking through that, then I mean, 50% of the month is your expenses, and then you're going to rent out 14 of the other 15 days probably, which is all
Yeah.
profit, which is that's a
Mm.
great business model.
Well, I'm looking then at that data. I'm looking at the 50th percentile, right? So I'm really trying to be very, very conservative. I'm usually hitting. I'm usually hitting all the costs within, fixed and variable costs within the first 7 days, because especially now prices are quite high. So, yeah. So, but I don't go into a deal unless I'm at least at that 50 percentile. I try to obviously beat the algorithm with a lot of things. So with service and with yeah, so I'm really trying to hit that 70, at least that 75 percentile.
That's fantastic. And speaking of expenses, what does your team look like? Like what do you do, and what do you outsource? Like what are some of your biggest expenses, and what does your team look like?
Sure. I do too much. I'll be honest. I work. I need to really sort of manage some of my. I'm just. I guess I can be honest here in that, we had such a rough time over the pandemic when the borders were shut,
Mm,
that that even though things are going so well now, I'm still like, I still think, even though we're doing so well, I keep thinking, how long is this going to last? How long is
yeah.
it going to last? So I need to get a bit more trust factor, and then I need to sort of pull back on my day to day a little bit. Um, but yeah, so I started by myself, as I said, with that one small unit, and then it was me, and then I brought in a cleaner because, yeah, that's not my skill set, um, and and because I'd be playing, if I'd be cleaning, I would be cleaning apartment, and then I would also be fixing things, and it would take me so long.
Yeah.
When you outsource to a cleaner, that's all they're focused on, and so it just gets done really quickly. So it's a much better use of time and money. So obviously the biggest expense we have is in our cleaning team, who I pay well and I pay early, and I look after, and because they're family, I could not run this business without them also wanting us to succeed. So, we have 5 cleaners, and then we have a couple of extras. Um, After I had a few houses, then my husband, who was working in restaurants, he was working, hospitality hours. We had a small child. Hospitality hours are rubbish, and the
Yeah.
pay here is rubbish. There's no tipping. And so, he said, well, why do you work? Why are we working like this? This is nuts. So let me get another couple of houses on board. You can now come work for me. Very interesting having your spouse work for you. That's another story. So he sort of joined the team, and he looks after things like maintenance, and he does all of the check-ins. Still does, and we've got another couple. I've got couple of admin assistants, or bookkeeper. I've just hired an ops manager, and I'm bringing her up to speed now because I'm hoping to offload some of my sort of day-to-day stresses onto her. So 5 cleaners, my husband, his assistant, ops manager, and 2 virtual assistants, and a social media person, but that's marketing. That's slightly different.
Wow. Nice. So
Hmm.
so you're not taking the bookings, then it's a virtual assistant that's doing the guest communication, or you're doing it? You.
Me,
Okay.
or me, yeah, or me. So I have a lot of automation built in.
Yeah.
I obviously I know my guest. I know my standard booking arc. So I know the milestones of the guest experience, and I've automated all the key points along that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And that, but things like the random questions, I'm still answering those. Um, I'm I have been playing with AI. I'm not loving it, to be honest, because our brand is built around us. our brand is built around our personal touch, our high touch hospitality. And I don't want to lose that. So I've got to make sure that is maintained, even if we're not the ones doing the actual delivery of that service.
Yeah, yeah, that is important. And I forgot I didn't even ask you this, but I assume you speak Japanese fluently, or no?
Enough to get me into trouble, not enough to get me out of trouble.
So,
No, I mean, I've lived here 24 years, so, but I'm still not fluent. It's a hard language. We speak English at home. My husband's Australian as well. My son probably speaks more Japanese than we do because he's at local school.
mm,
But yeah, I'm not completely fluent. So when we built the house and when we did everything, I hired a translator just, to go through all the legal paperwork because the written language is brutal. But day to day and getting around and like I'll meet up with the fire people tomorrow. That'll be no problem.
okay. In your team, are they Japanese citizens or foreign?
My cleaners are all Filipino. My cleaners are mostly Filipino, and I have a Russian lady who is one of my cleaners as well. No, they're not all. Like, there's one Japanese woman. I have my ops manager. She's half Korean and half Japanese, and English speaking. But all of our guests are English speaking.
Okay,
So
interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that was I think probably what a lot of people are wondering is like, could I do this if I didn't speak the local language? Could I do it, in another country? And it sounds like that's possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Living in Japan for as long as I have, what I've recognized is that, I have enough Japanese to survive, to get myself around, to do PTA, to do all of those things. I'll never be 100% fluent because it's just such a hard language. But I don't stress about it too much because if my job depended on me being a native speaker, then I hire a native speaker. There's 300 and something million
Yeah.
native speakers. So I always look for people that complement what I do rather than do what I do. So, because no one can do, everyone's unique. So I've got my skill set, my husband's got his skill set, so I'm just trying to build a team where we cover all the bases. And the Japanese language part, I have a virtual assistant who can do all of that for us.